The grand ballroom was buzzing with laughter and clinking glasses, sparkling chandeliers, casting a golden glow on the polished marble floors. Elegant gowns swept the floor, and sharp tuxedos moved smoothly through the crowd. The city's richest and most powerful had gathered for the annual charity gala, a night where fortunes were made and reputations either shined or shattered. In the middle of all this glitter and glamour, a woman stood alone near the back, gripping the stem of her wine glass so tightly her knuckles turned white. Her eyes darted around nervously as whispers floated through the air, sharp like daggers aimed directly at her. She was different from the usual crowd, not because of her dress or manners, but because she didn't belong. Who invited her? A voice hissed nearby, loud enough for others to hear. She looks like she stepped out of a different world. Did you see the way she stumbled just now? Such a mess, another sneered, smirking behind a perfectly painted hand. The woman's heart pounded in her chest. She forced a calm smile, but inside, the shame was burning. This was supposed to be her night, her moment. Instead, it was becoming a nightmare. Suddenly the spotlight shifted as a tall, handsome young man stepped onto the stage. The murmurs quieted, and eyes turned towards him. He was the heir to the billionaire empire that owned half the city, James Harrington. Everyone knew him as the Golden Boy, destined to inherit everything, including his father's powerful legacy. James cleared his throat and smiled warmly. "Thank you all for coming tonight," he said, his voice smooth and confident. "This year, we're raising funds to help those who have been overlooked by society, people who deserve a second chance." His words drew polite applause, but the woman by the wall felt her breath hitch. She knew all too well what it meant to be overlooked. Before the event, she had been warned, "Stay out of sight, don't embarrass yourself." But something inside her refused to stay silent or invisible. She needed to be here. As the evening wore on, the whispers grew louder and the eyes colder. At one point, a glass was accidentally knocked from her hand, shattering on the floor. The gasps around her felt like a chorus of judgment. She looked down, cheeks burning, when suddenly a firm hand touched her shoulder. "Are you all right?" a gentle voice asked. She looked up to see James Harrington himself, concern clear in his eyes. I'm fine," she whispered. "No, you're not," he said quietly, lowering his voice. "Come with me." Before she could protest, he guided her through the crowd to a quiet corner. For the first time that evening, she felt a small spark of hope. "I'm sorry about what you're going through," James said. "People can be cruel, especially in places like this, but you don't deserve it." Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them away. "Thank you." They stood in silence for a moment, the noise of the gala fading into the background. Then James surprised her. "Would you like to say a few words to the crowd about why you're here?" Her heart stopped. "Me? But I'm not prepared. I don't have a speech." "It doesn't have to be perfect," he said with a smile. "Just honest." She hesitated, but nodded. The idea was terrifying, but maybe this was the chance she needed. When James called her up, the room fell silent. All eyes were on her, the woman they had mocked just minutes ago. She took a deep breath and began to speak. "My name is Sarah," she said, her voice trembling at first but growing stronger. "I've faced many hardships in my life. I was told I didn't belong here, that I should be ashamed. But I'm here to say that everyone deserves respect and a chance to rise, no matter where they come from." A murmur of surprise spread through the crowd. Some faces softened, others shifted uncomfortably. She continued, sharing a glimpse of her story. A story of loss, of fighting against the odds, of finding strength she didn't know she had. When she finished, there was a moment of stunned silence. Then slowly the applause began. It was hesitant at first, but grew louder and more genuine. James stepped forward, beaming with pride. "This is the kind of courage we need to celebrate," he said. "Thank you, Sarah, for reminding us what truly matters." As the night ended, Sarah felt something she hadn't felt in years: acceptance. Not from everyone, but from the one person who mattered most tonight. Later, as guests began to leave, a small crowd gathered near the entrance. Whispers turned to stunned gasps when James approached Sarah and said clearly, loud enough for all to hear, "Mom, let's go home." The room fell into a shocked silence. For a moment, no one moved. Then cameras flashed, questions flew, and the story that no one expected began to unfold. Sarah's journey was far from over. The gala was just the beginning. Behind the shock and the whispers was a deeper truth, a hidden connection, and a mystery that would change everything. The room still echoed with the shock of James calling Sarah Mum. The wealthy guests who had moments ago mocked her now stood frozen, their eyes wide with disbelief. Some whispered, others exchanged confused glances, but no one dared speak up immediately. The gala's glittering facade had cracked, revealing something raw and unexpected beneath. Sarah felt every pair of eyes on her as she followed James toward the grand exit. Her heart pounded, not from fear, but from a whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. Relief, anxiety, hope, and fear all mingled as the reality of what just happened settled in. James's grip on her hand was firm but gentle. "Let's get out of here," he said quietly. Outside, the cool night air hit them like a wave of freedom. The city's skyline stretched endlessly, the towering buildings lit up like stars. For a moment, the noise of the gala seemed like a distant memory. Sarah looked up at James. "Why did you say that? In front of everyone?" James smiled softly, but there was a flicker of sadness behind his eyes. "Because it's time the truth came out. People need to know who you really are." Sarah's breath caught. "But you've always kept this a secret. Why now?" James took a deep breath, then began to tell a story she hadn't heard in years. The story of their family, the secrets buried beneath wealth and privilege, and the reason why Sarah had been kept away from the life she deserved. The secret they hid years ago, long before James was the heir to the Harrington Empire. His mother had been a different woman, kind, strong, and fiercely protective. But tragedy struck when James was just a baby. His mother disappeared under mysterious circumstances, and the family never spoke of her again. Sarah's story was tangled in that mystery. She was James's biological mother, but their separation had been forced by powerful forces who wanted to keep the family's reputation spotless. Sarah had been young and vulnerable, left to survive alone, while James grew up in luxury, unaware of the mother who had sacrificed everything for him. Sarah's past. Sarah took a shaky breath. "I never wanted you to know the truth like this. I wanted to protect you." James nodded, his eyes filled with understanding. "I know, Mom, but I needed to find you, to know where I come from." Sarah's story unfolded, how she had struggled to survive after losing James, working multiple jobs, facing heartbreak and loneliness, all while never giving up hope that one day they would be reunited. Her voice trembled as she spoke, but there was a fierce light behind her eyes. "I didn't want charity, I wanted justice. I wanted you to have the life you deserved." James squeezed her hand. "And now we'll fight together." The battle begins. The next days were a whirlwind. The media had caught wind of the Gala incident, and the story exploded across headlines. Reporters camped outside the Harrington estate, eager to uncover every detail. Sarah faced the harsh glare of public scrutiny. Some called her a hero, others whispered cruel accusations. But through it all, James stood by her side. Inside the Harrington mansion, tensions boiled. James's father, the powerful and cold-hearted billionaire, was furious. He wanted to silence the scandal and erase Sarah from their lives again. But James was determined. "She's my mother, And I won't let you hurt her. An unexpected ally. Just when it seemed the family feud might destroy them all, an unexpected vigor stepped forward. Emily, James's sister from his father's second marriage. She had always been close to James, and when she learned the truth, she surprised everyone by offering her support. "Mum deserves to be part of this family," Emily said firmly. "We need to stand together." With Emily's help, Sarah began to navigate the complicated world of wealth, power, and betrayal. It wasn't easy. Every step brought new challenges, hidden enemies, legal battles, and painful memories. The mysterious document one evening, while searching through old family records at the mansion, Sarah discovered something shocking. A document that could change everything. It was a letter written years ago, revealing the truth about the disappearance of James's mother and the reason Sarah was forced away. Her hands trembled as she read, "To protect the family name, the truth must remain buried. But one day the son will learn, and when he does, he must know his mother never abandoned him. She was forced away, sacrificed for the greater good." The letter was signed by James's grandfather. A race against time. The revelation gave Sarah hope, but also put them all in danger. Someone powerful didn't want the truth to come out. Strange calls, anonymous threats, and shadowy figures lurking outside the mansion signaled that the fight was far from over. James and Sarah knew they had to act fast. They decided to hire a private investigator, someone who could dig deeper into the family's secrets and protect them from harm. The investigator's discovery. The investigator, a sharp-witted woman named Rachel, uncovered a web of lies, betrayals, and cover-ups. She traced the disappearance of James's mother to a dangerous plot involving rival business interests and corrupt officials. "The Harrington family has enemies," Rachel warned. "But you have something they don't, a bond that can't be broken." Sarah's strength through the turmoil. Sarah's strength shone brighter than ever. She faced the harsh world with courage, refusing to be crushed by the weight of the past. Her story inspired many who had felt lost and forgotten. She began speaking publicly about her journey, becoming a symbol of resilience and hope. James's transformation. For James, the reunion with Sarah transformed him. He was no longer just a privileged heir. He became a fighter for truth and justice. He used his influence to challenge the corrupt forces threatening his family and those who had been silenced. The cliffhanger, just when it seemed they might finally find peace, a shocking twist shattered their fragile calm. One night, as Sarah returned home, she found a note slipped under her door. It read, "The past is not done with you. Watch your back." A shadow moved in the darkness outside the window. The mystery deepened, and the battle for truth and survival had only just begun. The story of Sarah and James was far from over. The secrets of the Harrington family were more dangerous than anyone had imagined, but together they were ready to face whatever came next. The note Sarah found that night was more than just a threat. It was a warning, a signal that the past, long buried and carefully hidden, was beginning to claw its way back into their lives. The shadow outside the window was a reminder. Some secrets were deadly, and some enemies were closer than they thought. The calm before the storm. For a brief moment after the Gala's shockwaves, life seemed to settle into a fragile calm. Sarah moved into the Harrington mansion, no longer a guest, but family. The public's fascination with her story gave her a new platform, and she began to speak out about her struggles and resilience. James remained her fierce protector and partner in this new chapter. Together they tried to rebuild their relationship, two lives torn apart by secrets, but now united by a fierce love. Emily became their strongest ally inside the family. She helped shield Sarah from whispers and cold stares, reminding her that strength often came from the most unexpected places. Yet beneath this calm, tension simmered. The billionaire patriarch of the family, Victor Harrington, watched everything with a cold, calculating gaze. His opposition was no longer quiet. It was a storm waiting to break. Unseen threats. The threats began small, a broken fence at night, strange phone calls with no voice at the other end, a car that followed Sarah on her way to work. But soon the danger became more direct. One afternoon, as Sarah left the mansion to meet Rachel, the private investigator, a black SUV suddenly blocked her path. Two masked men jumped out, forcing Sarah inside the vehicle. James, who had been driving behind, saw everything unfold and immediately called for help. But before the police could arrive, the SUV sped away. Kidnapped, Sarah's heart pounded as the SUV drove through twisting roads away from the city. She stayed calm, looking for any chance to escape. The men said little, but their silence was more terrifying than words. Inside, Sarah's mind raced. Was this connected to the letter? Had someone decided to silence her for good? Meanwhile, James was frantic. His world was spinning out of control, and the police were still searching for clues. A hidden hideout. The kidnappers took Sarah to a remote, rundown warehouse far outside the city. It was dark and cold, the perfect place for hiding. Someone who needed to disappear. Sarah refused to show fear. She asked questions, trying to learn who these men were and what they wanted. Hours passed, and just when hope seemed to fade, the warehouse door creaked open. The stranger, a man, stepped inside. His face was half hidden in shadows, but his voice was sharp and clear. "You don't belong here," he said, "but you've stirred up things better left alone." Sarah held her ground. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" He smiled coldly. "I'm here on behalf of the Harrington family. Your presence threatens to ruin everything we've built." Sarah's blood ran cold. She had suspected Victor Harrington's involvement, but hearing it confirmed was chilling. James's search back in the city, James refused to wait for the police. Gathering a small team of trusted friends, and Rachel, the investigator, he launched his own rescue mission. His knowledge of the city's underworld and the Harrington family's rivals became their guide. Every lead brought new dangers, but James's determination never wavered. Rachel's discovery. Meanwhile, Rachel dug deeper into the family's past. She found evidence that Victor Harrington had been involved in illegal dealings for years, using the family's wealth to silence enemies and cover up scandals. More shocking was a file that revealed Victor's role in the disappearance of James's real mother years ago. The corruption went deeper than anyone imagined. A dangerous deal. Sarah's captor returned with a proposition. "Leave this fight alone, walk away, and no harm will come to you." Sarah's answer was fierce. "I'm not leaving until the truth is known." The man's face darkened. "You're more stubborn than I thought." But stubbornness can be dangerous. The escape plan, Sarah knew she had to act fast. Using her wit and courage, she found a way to pick the lock on her handcuffs. One night, when the guard's attention wavered, she slipped out, moving quietly. Through the shadows, every step was a risk, but freedom was worth it. James's close call as James and his team closed in on the warehouse's location. They were ambushed by masked men. A fierce fight broke out with James narrowly escaping. His resolve hardened. A mother's love. When Sarah finally reached the city, she rushed straight to James. The reunion was emotional. Tears, relief, and renewed determination. "I'm not afraid anymore," Sarah said. "We'll fight this together." James nodded. "We will." The public revelation, with new evidence and Sarah's bravery, the Harrington family's dark secrets began to surface. The media frenzy grew, forcing Victor Harrington into the spotlight and threatening his empire. But the battle was far from over. The cliffhanger. Just as Sarah and James prepared for the final showdown, a mysterious message arrived. "You've only scratched the surface. The truth will cost more than you think." And then a sudden blackout plunged the city into darkness. The fight for truth, survival, and justice was reaching its peak. But would Sarah and James be ready for the final test? The blackout was more than just a power failure. It was a symbol of the darkness that had long shadowed the Harrington family, and the moment when that darkness would finally be confronted. Sarah and James stood side by side in the dim light of the mansion, their faces illuminated only by the glow of their phones and the flickering candles scattered around the room. The city outside was silent, held hostage by the unknown forces that wanted to keep the truth buried forever. But Sarah's heart was resolute. This was their moment, not to run, but to stand firm. The final showdown, Victor Harrington had lost control of the narrative. His carefully crafted image was crumbling under the weight of evidence, public outrage, and the relentless fight of Sarah and James. Yet he was not a man to surrender easily. In a private meeting with his most trusted allies, Victor planned a last desperate move to silence Sarah once and for all. But James had anticipated this. With Rachel's help, he had gathered security and legal support ready to expose Victor's crimes publicly. Justice in the courtroom. The days that followed were a whirlwind of court hearings, media coverage, and public debates. Victor Harrington faced charges of corruption, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. Sarah testified with courage and clarity, telling her story not just as a victim, but as a fighter for truth. Her words resonated deeply with the public, many of whom had suffered similar silencing in their own lives. A family reclaimed, Emily stood by Sarah's side throughout, helping bridge the gaps within the family. Slowly, other family members began to acknowledge the truth and support Sarah and James. The mansion, once a place of secrets and cold glances, started to feel like home. James and Sarah rebuilt their relationship on a foundation stronger than any wealth: love, honesty, and resilience. The unexpected twist: just as the court case neared its end, a shocking revelation surfaced. A long-lost sibling of James, believed to be missing, came forward. This sibling held crucial evidence that further implicated Victor and exposed even deeper layers of deception. The family's story was far from over, but now it was a story of hope and healing. Sarah's message: in the final moments of the trial, Sarah addressed the courtroom and the world. Truth is not just about uncovering secrets, she said. It's about facing pain, embracing hope, and never giving up, even when the odds are against you. Her message inspired many to stand up against injustice in their own lives. A new beginning, with Victor Harrington sentenced and the family's dark past finally exposed. Sarah and James looked toward the future. They founded a charity to support families torn apart by secrets and corruption, turning their pain into purpose. Their story became a beacon of resilience and the power of truth. The lesson: the journey of Sarah and James teaches us that no matter how deep the shadows of the past, light can break through. Truth may be painful, but it is also freeing. And above all, family is not just about blood or wealth. It's about love, courage, and standing together through every storm. The end.